Welcome to the meeting of the Conservation Commission for November 15th, 2023. The time is just after 5:30. And let me just take a quick look for... Don't see any commissioners in the regular attendees. So we'll start with a roll call of commissioners present. Member Charpentier.
Here.
Member Cook. Member Gradwell. Member Sargent.
Here.
Member Viteri.
Here.
Member Gullah.
Here.
And Member Jackson.
Here.
All right, so we have a quorum present.
Okay, so first up would be administrative briefing. I don't know if there's anything outside this agenda that you want to talk about, Chuck?
Nothing tonight. I did want to mention, as usual, we have some continued items for folks that are waiting. So you don't have to stick around too long, hopefully. First up is NOI 0282950 for 160 158 rear 158A Essex Avenue. That was previously continued to December 6th. NOI 0282968 22 Raven Lane has requested to continue to March 6th of 2024. NOI 0282965 132 Wheeler Street has requested to move to the meeting of December 6th, 2023.
What was that last one? 132 Wheeler?
132 Wheeler, yep. That'll be the next meeting, which is December 6th, 2023.
Got it. All right, anything else under administrative briefing?
Nothing this evening, no.
All right, so with that then we'll move on. This is the we'll move to the public comment period. This is the period of the meeting where the public is welcome to speak towards any conservation issues that are not, I repeat, not on tonight's agenda. If anybody wishes to speak about during the public comment period, you may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 21 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Okay, moving along, seeing none, hearing none, I will close the public comment period. Next up would be minutes review and approval, the November 1 minutes. I think we have enough here to move that as well.
I think so. I'll make a motion. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve the minutes of the Conservation Commission meeting of November 1st, 2023 as amended.
Charpentier seconds.
Oh, Member Charpentier.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Viteri.
Yes.
Member Gullah.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. Moving along, we're moving into continued business. Right off the bat, again, we have notice of intent, just in case someone got a call just now. Notice of intent 0282950 160 158 154A Essex Avenue, Upper Banjo Pond LLC. They construction of a road, utilities, drainage, dam construction, installation of a dock, float, buffer zone to BVW, land underwater body, and inland bank. This project has been previously continued to December 6, 2023.
We're going to move to the Bill Manuals projects, Rob.
So next we're going to jump to seeing it here. Farrington is up next.
Yes,
Yes.
2971.
Next up would be notice of intent number 0282971 51 Farrington Avenue, Brian and Leslie Flynn. Full renovation of a single-family home, pool, landscaping in buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. William Manuel Wetland and Management Inc. representing.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing me to jump out of order as I have hearings later on, and this will help me make two towns tonight. I'd like to share my screen and get right into this.
Yeah.
So this is a project I'm very happy to be representing on behalf of Brian and Leslie Flynn. They've owned the property for several years, but have been in a sort of a planning and design phase for much of that time, trying to figure out exactly how they're going to use this property. It's a fairly extensive property. It borders on Farrington Avenue. Directly across the road is the parking area for the Greenbelt property, the Sane Field property. And there's actually a second lot. Well, you know, part of this lot extends almost down to Brace Cove. So it's a fairly extensive lot, but you see that they're only occupying and utilizing this area up directly adjacent to Farrington Avenue. So again, Farrington Avenue up here, there are other homes on the left and right. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit and get into the presentation. So this is going to be an extensive renovation project. The existing house I have outlined here in the dark black line. There is an appendage off of the rear of the home that was installed after the existing or the previous or after the main body of the home that was not constructed properly. As part of the renovation, this portion of the building is going to be demoed and then rebuilt in a smaller footprint. But the second story of the home, it's a Cape style home. So the second story, even though you go upstairs, it's the roof lines really limit the living space upstairs. So this second story roof is going to be removed down to the floor decking of the second story and then rebuilt with you know, conventional straight walls and you know, living space over the entire second floor. There will be significant hardscape and landscape work, more hardscape than anything on the property. There's an old pool. Its time has come and gone. The owners have no desire to maintain this pool or put time or effort into refurbishing it, so they're going to fill it in. That is a decrease of about 1,600 square feet of impervious area. There will be in the back, there is an existing deck. There's a lot of stuff going on in the backyard. There's an existing deck. There's a terrace that goes out to the driveway. All of that gets demoed in favor of a new deck, if you will, sort of an entryway, a stoop, if you will, into the home in this location. I've got it shaded out in gray. There is a pervious terrace that will be off the rear of the home. And within that terrace will be a plunge pool. It is it's only 135 square feet, 15 by 9, just enough for getting in and cooling off on hot summer days. There are a couple of sheds on the property. Over here, this will be the westerly shed. This is going to be repurposed. Right now, it has the pool mechanicals in it, and that is going to be converted to a sauna. There'll be a new outdoor rinse station built onto it. And then there's this shed on the east side of the property. And that also has a bathroom in it and some storage area that will be refurbished. I'm not sure the purpose, well, that'll be refurbished. I'll leave it at that. They want to put an enclosure around the yard. I've outlined that in orange. And I'm happy to report that the property has a significant decrease of impervious area. There's a decrease of 2,076 square feet of impervious area in the buffer zone. It's all documented here on a plan by Gateway Consultants. I don't believe we're removing any trees, so it's a neat little project. Working pretty much within the same footprint, a little bit of expansion here, but that's outside the buffer zone. And we have a large decrease of impervious surface. So we're hoping the commission looks favorably on this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manuel. I'll open up for public comments. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 51 Farrington Avenue may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 24 attendees and there are no hands up this time.
Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I'll close public comment period. We'll move on to roll call comments from commissioners.
Member Charpentier.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just curious about that little shed down at the bottom of the drawing. A shed with a bathroom is kind of interesting to me. Could you explain what they're gonna be using that for?
Well, it was a bathroom area that complemented the pool. I don't know if they're gonna try to retain that bathroom. Perhaps the owner, Mr. Flynn, or one of the architects could chime in and give clarification at the end of your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Member Sargent.
It appears that there's going to be a sewer hookup. If so, the existing wastewater collection system must be abandoned in accordance with Title V, and all dewatering must be adequately treated before being discharged. Thank you.
Member Materi.
Yeah, only conditions to add would be native grass and plantings in the former pool area, and all trash and rubbish to be cleaned and removed after each workday during the demolition and construction period.
Member Gilla.
Mr. Manuel, usually I saw on the plan you have a lot of, it looks like paver walkways around the house. Is that correct?
You're asking if there's walkways shown on the plan?
Yeah, there are. There's quite a few walkways, and it looks like most of them are newer. The ones within our purview, I just want to make sure that they're not tightly jointed as we normally detail out as this commission to allow for them to be pervious when possible or practicable. You okay with that?
I was waiting for Ann Joe to speak and then I'll address everything.
Okay. My only question is, under your description of proposed work, you say that you're adding footprint space to the current house footprint. Is the second floor addition going to come over the newly rebuilt jut out part, which it doesn't seem to now? How are you doing that? Because the second floor already exists.
If it's easier to reshare, Mr. Manuel, if you want us to allow you to share again, would that be helpful?
I could reshare. Okay, first of all, I'd like if Kate or Ryan or Brian are available to speak. Can any of you comment on the bathroom that's in this easterly shed?
We've got two hands up, Treehouse Design and BEF@renre.com. Does those sound familiar to you?
Treehouse, please.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Looks like my monitor is off, but you can hear me?
Yes, name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Ryan MacArthur. I'm an architect at Treehouse Design. I'm here with Kate Martin. She's also an architectural designer at Treehouse Design. The question was about the existing shed that's in the rearmost yard. That existing shed has a storage area in it, and it has an outdated half bath in it. The intent is to still use that structure as a storage shed. It is not to rehab the bathroom in that space. So I imagine it needs new roofing, new siding, just general upkeep, and use as kind of a landscape garden storage shed.
So to be clear, there will be no plumbing fixtures in that facility.
That's accurate to say. I believe the other person that raised his hand was the owner, Brian. So if we'd like to get his consult on this, that'd be fine too.
Before you go though, we have another question about the second floor slightly overlapping. Is that true? Is there a cantilever here?
There is not, no, the second floor is built on top of the existing footprint of the building. There is a structure at the back of the building that Bill mentioned at the beginning of his presentation. It exists, and that structure is compromised, it was poorly built. And so the intent is to take down that existing structure and replace it, but replace it slightly smaller, but within the same footprint that's already there.
And are you extending the second floor over that?
Yes, we partially are, but it
Okay,
is over, but it's over existing.
that's fine. I just, in the description of the work, it mentions that you were adding footprint space, and I couldn't figure out how because your second floor already exists over the stable part of the house.
Yes.
Okay,
And
okay, that's fine.
Commissioner Jackson, we are extending the garage area in this location. That happens to be outside the buffer zone.
Okay.
Ryan, do
Okay.
you know if the second floor will extend over that extended portion of garage?
It will not. The second floor addition is housed on the left and right of the page by existing one-story structures that are going to stay intact.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So moving on to Commissioner Sargent's comments, those are, I think that's standard operating procedure, and we wouldn't mind a condition in the order of conditions specifying, pump and remove any components that are left and, with a licensed hauler and abandon them in accordance with Title V. As far as the pool area for now, we were intending to fill that in with clean earth and basically match the grades left and right, front and back, and just stabilize it with lawn cover right now. The walkways are intended to be pervious, and we have put a pervious bluestone detail on the plan to illustrate how that's going to be accomplished. We have the joints filled with rice gravel, and then the compacted aggregate underneath that, and another layer of infiltrating crushed stone. So anything that percolates through the rice gravel will percolate into the ground below. And I think that's everybody.
I also wanted to make sure that any water that had to be discharged would be treated.
Any dewatering, if you will? Is that what you're
Yes.
asking? Of
Yes,
course.
And Chuck, did you have any comments on this project?
I do not, nothing that hasn't been covered already.
Okay,
I thought the owner wanted, I think that's, somebody's hand went up, came back out.
I think we've covered everything.
Okay,
So
all right. Commissioners, anything else to add? If not, you want to move to close the hearing?
yep. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282971 at 51 Farrington Avenue.
The Charpentier seconds?
We'll call Member Charpentier,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
yes.
Member Terry,
Yes.
Member Gullo,
Yes.
and Member Newton.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282971 at 51 Farrington Avenue.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes.
Member Sargent,
Yes,
Member Terry,
Yes.
Member Gullo,
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay,
thank you very much.
we're all set with that one. I guess we're moving on to the next, which is notice of intent 0282969, 5 Samoset Road, Laura Taormina, to raise and rebuild single-family home in riverfront area and buffer zone to coastal resource area. William Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management, Inc., represented.
So good evening, and again, thank you for taking me out of order. I apologize to the folks that are later in the agenda that I jumped in front of. But I appreciate your patience. I'll try to be as brief and concise as possible. So again, I'll get right to the the screen share. This is a lot that's in riverfront area, entirely within riverfront area on Samoset Road. Winthrop Avenue is just sort of around the corner and up the hill. If you've gone down Winthrop Avenue, there's an old ice pond behind one of the houses there, I think number 16, and the USGS map says there's a perennial stream that exits the ice pond. That perennial stream flows down past this site and eventually out into an expansive marsh that's across the road, and it will eventually hook up with the Annisquam River. But we happen to be in the riverfront area of that perennial stream. It's a tidal stream where it crosses in front of this property. I'm gonna, Samoset Road's at the bottom. You can see there's a driveway entering the site. There is a, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. There is an existing home. I've got the property line outlined in a dark black line, and you can see that the home actually extends off the rear property line. So that obviously needs to be rectified. There is an old shed here that's also just against the property line. The home is vacant right now and has not been occupied for several years, and the grounds are becoming overgrown. The owner would like to rehabilitate the property and install a new dwelling on the lot. I say install because they want to utilize modular type construction where they would pour the foundation, and then the houses or the house would be delivered in large blocks, probably two units to make up the lower floor and 2 units to make up the upper floor. So they would be delivered on a flatbed truck, and then they'd be actually craned in place and set on the foundation. Construction time is dramatically decreased. Construction waste is dramatically decreased as well. Pretty much once these things are set on the foundation, the house is closed in, and there's minor exterior work. This project is it's in the riverfront, and I'm sure the commission is aware, but there's been a slow rollout from the DEP, basically re-evaluating how these riverfront area projects are looked at and evaluated. If this were 6 months ago, we'd say, well, you know, this is a standard riverfront project. We've done dozens of them in Gloucester. You get 10% or 5,000 square feet of the riverfront area on the lot, whichever is greater. The department is now looking at this and saying, if any part of the lot has been degraded prior to 1996 with structure or driveway, then the entire lot has to be looked at as being a redevelopment project. And that's a different set of the regulations, 1058-5, and it's completely different than what how we've been treating these projects in the past. So now looking at this as a redevelopment project, basically it says if any part of the land has been previously developed or degraded is the important word, then the project you can only impact 10% of the riverfront area on the lot. And if you already exceed that 10%, well, then you have to mitigate by either a factor of 1-to-1 by restoring degraded area, or 2-to-1 by upgrading riverfront area that's on the site. So we have a paved driveway, we have existing home and a shed. Those areas are previously degraded prior to 1996. I have a nice chart over here. This gets to be a mathematics exercise, and it documents the amount of previously degraded area. There's the lot area is 9,321 square feet. 10% of that's 932 square feet. We already have more than twice that with previously degraded area, a total of 1,861 square feet. So now we have to look at, all right, well, what's my increase of impact and then mitigate for that. So my impacts are documented over here. We have a very modest sized new home of 976 square feet. The driveway will be slightly enlarged because right now it's about 8 feet wide or so, and it's very steep. We're going to make this about 12 feet wide, so you can at least get, get up to the top of the driveway and get out and not fall off the edge of the hill here. The driveway increased a little bit, so my total impacts in the post-development is 2,031. I have a modest increase of impact in the riverfront of 170 square feet. So I have mitigated for that by, number one, removing all this previously degraded area of the house and the shed, and then mitigating 340 square feet of riverfront area in this location here. The areas surrounding this property are all wooded, and I thought that would be a great place to just expand on the woods line and bring that out a little bit. I have a planting specification here that talks about installing native trees and shrubs, 3 to 4 feet tall and about 10 feet on center. So that is the proposal. We've got comments from DEP, and they kind of take issue with my interpretation of improvement of riverfront area on the site. And I'm not going to be able to close this hearing tonight. I'm going to have to address that with the DEP, and I'm sure that your commission is going to want to see that information as well. But basically, running through 1058.5, I've explained to you why this is a redevelopment project. It says 1058.5A or B says, no, 5A says I need to do some kind of improvement on the lot. And I would say that I've done a pretty good job improving the lot by removing this dilapidated structure and adding additional mitigation, removing the shed as well, keeping the footprint very small, and minimizing any increase of impervious cover. I'd say I did a pretty good job of that. It says I need to manage stormwater according to standards established by the department. Now, for a single family lot, we don't need to manage stormwater, but we have shown stormwater management on the site. The engineer Gateway Consultants has added this infiltration drip edge around the entire perimeter of the foundation. I would call that an improvement over existing conditions because we're not required to provide stormwater management, and yet we do. I've spoken with the circuit or communicated with the circuit rider via email on not directly related to this project, but for other riverfront redevelopment projects. She indicated that providing stormwater is in fact an improvement when the department does not require it. It says the next standard is I shouldn't go any closer to the riverfront. I don't have a lot of choice here, and I'll tell you why. I've outlined the building setback in red. So presently the house is, number one, it's off the lot. Number two, it's non-compliant with zoning setbacks. I can't do that with new construction. This is the 100-foot inner riparian zone line here. Most of the house is outside of that, most of the proposed house. I could push this back a little bit more, but I am really fighting with grades here. And if I push, the more I push it back, the more I need to extend the driveway, because look at the topography on the site. It's very steep from the road up to where the house site is. The reason why this is in this corner of the lot is because this is really where the lot levels off. I can't put it there. I need to move it forward. As it is, the owners are going to have to park their vehicle here, walk into the house. It's about 4 feet higher than the driveway elevation here. And the more I move the house back, the farther it is they have to walk, and the more uphill they have to walk. So I'm trying to balance reasonable access to the home versus positioning the house on the lot with respect to the riverfront area. I'd like to have a conversation with DEP and see if they see it my way. The next standard is that I can't exceed 10%, and if I do, I need to provide mitigation by a factor of 1 to 1 or 2 to 1. I have done that, so I believe I have addressed all the riverfront area redevelopment project standards. But as I said, the DEP has commented otherwise, and I'm going to have to work that out. So that will be the extent of my presentation, but I would like to hear the commission's comments.
Okay, first I have to open, well, I don't have to, but it's what we do. We'll be opening up for public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 5 Samoset Road may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 24 attendees and there are no hands up.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, close the public comment period. Why don't we move on to roll call, commissioner comments?
Member Charpentier,
No comment.
Member Sargent.
Yeah, it appears that, as you said, some of the work is over the property line. At this point in time, I don't think we can approve an NOI without clear indication that the property owner is going to allow that. And moving the building towards the riverfront area and locating the mitigation area behind the house does not meet the standard of improving existing conditions. And there wasn't any mention of how much vegetation would need to be removed, and utilities aren't shown on the plan, such as the trenching. Thank you.
Member Thierry.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see you try and move the house footprint outside of the 100-foot line if you could. I think that would get you closer to meeting one of the subparagraph D of the redevelopment conditions. And then I think I'd like to see also some of the mitigation plantings be put kind of on the side of the house that's closer to within the 100-foot area on the, I guess it's north. I don't know what directions I'm looking at, but if you're looking at the plan, it would be the lower right side of the house corner on the plan. So mitigation down in that area, in addition to mitigation in the back, just so it's closer to the river area.
Member Villa.
I concur with the previous comments. I would add two things. One, I thought all new construction homes in Gloucester had to have stormwater management. I could be wrong. A new home, I thought, shifts you into that world no matter what. But I could be wrong. I check on that. And then I concur with the, if we're off the property, obviously that can't happen. Lastly, I would appreciate if maybe we don't have a rebuttal from you on this unless you need to get something out. We spent a lot of time with you, allowing you to jump ahead. I don't want to have another long conversation as people are getting backed up behind them.
Member Jackson.
Yeah, I think I heard you say this, Bill, but I just want to make sure that on each of those 4 DEP areas, the atonement, as you will, is not duplicated from one to the other. I think from my understanding of DEP, is it has to be different from, so you're using this area for one standard, but you're using another area for a second one.
And Chuck, anything to add?
The DEP also comments that area of the overhang does need to be included in the calculations. And I guess, you're saying that you can't move the house further back, but you could certainly not have that overhang. You could move the overhang in the opposite direction, and that would decrease the impact that's closer to the river and the footprint that, they'll decrease the footprint within the 100-foot portion of the buffer. So there are alternatives that haven't been looked at, I believe. So I'd maybe like to see you revisit the alternatives analysis as well. And I think DEP is looking for that as well.
Do you agree, Chuck, that it's redevelopment so that he doesn't need an alternative analysis?
It's at the discretion of the commission. They can request.
Okay. Well, we're
yeah,
looking,
process.
yeah, we're asking him to look at some alternatives, so. no.
All right, Mr. Manuel, you can quick comment or two before we.
Very good comments. I will look at if we can strike a balance and try to get this home outside of the 100-foot zone. I'll look at additional mitigation or repositioning. Just the part about the deck, the overhang that's been called. The reason why I didn't count it is because it is a second floor deck. It's a full story off the ground. It only touches the ground by a couple of posts. I'm in a superseding order of conditions discussion with DEP on a riverfront redevelopment project. And they told me that second floor decks don't count as impact. So that's why I didn't count it. So these are the trials and tribulations we're going to work through as we ignore the last 27 years of riverfront area projects and begin a path down this, a new path. So I don't want to take up anybody else's time. I've heard the commission's comments and I appreciate your putting me ahead of the agenda.
Excellent, thank you. So let's, we'll move to continue.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282969, 5 Samoset Road to the Conservation Commission meeting of December, what is it, 6th?
6th. Yep.
Oh, I definitely will not be prepared to be on December 6th meeting. Could you
Okay.
make it the next one?
December 20th to the Conservation Commission meeting of December 20th.
Thank you.
Carpentier seconds,
Roll call. Member Charpentier.
yes,
Member Sargent.
Yes,
Member Lettieri.
Yes.
Member Villa.
Yes,
Member Jackson.
Yes.
okay, we'll see you.
Thank you.
Next up, we're jumping back, I would guess, to Dolliver's Neck. Is that correct, Chuck?
Yes.
The next up would be notice of intent 028295583 Dolliver's Neck Drive. Louis Lucas, replacement of a collapsed seawall and coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage and coastal resource area. Richard A. Kilby of LEC Environmental Consultants, Inc. represented.
You should be promoting now. There you go.
Name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening. I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environment. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you calling on me?
Yes, I was.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It was just a delay with being promoted to panelist. Rich Kirby, LEC Environmental Consultants, representing the applicant George Manny for 83 Dolliver Point Road.
Okay, brief description.
All right. So we had filed this notice of intent back in September. And at the time, we didn't have a site plan just yet, but it is for the repair of a collapsed section of seawall at the property. It's off of Freshwater Cove. And since the last hearing, we've had an opportunity to engage Gateway Consultants. We have a site plan, as you can see here. And I'm kind of glad we did go for the survey because it revealed a couple of things. The primary thing that it revealed is that the mean high water line is actually just below the retaining wall. You can see right up there toward the top of the page, it's being scrolled off. At the very top says the mean high water line. So that line is actually down gradient of the proposed repair that we want to do. So that's good news because it means we don't need a Chapter 91 license. And it also means that we technically don't need Division of Marine Fisheries input since the work is above their jurisdiction. So that's good news. We also had an opportunity to, if I could share my screen, maybe I could go through some of the photographs just to reorient the commission with what the site looks like. Thanks. Find the window here. Bear with me, please. I have a lot of windows open. There we go. So I'm not sure if the commission remembers, but this is the collapsed section of walls. It's about 45 linear feet or so. And we included a few photographs. But basically it's just in-kind replacement of those wall sections with marine grade concrete with rebar. They'll be set atop the existing footings, which according to the contractor are in pretty good shape. Here's another view looking from the lawn area down to the collapsed section of wall here. All this lawn area that had been present would be backfilled and restored. And I use the term lawn loosely because it's a variety of low growing plants in addition to grasses that are there. There's another section here. You can see some fissures in the existing wall will also be repaired. So I think that the primary thing was the commission was having a hard time with the fact that we didn't have a plan, and now we do. We also submitted a few other documents that supported the design. So I'm happy to field any questions that the commission may have, but I'm hoping that we might be able to close the hearing tonight on this relatively straightforward project so we can get this wall repaired before the winter sets in.
Okay, before we are usually at this point, I open up our public comments. I just want to do a little PSA right now is we have only 5 commissioners tonight. So if somebody has a very tricky project, I just want to let you know the commission does not have its usual 7. There's only 5 to pass. Unless we need 3 to pass of the 5. So for future projects or anyone else listening, it shouldn't discourage you from coming before us at all, but I just want to leave people to know. With that, I'll open up for public comment. Anyone who wishes to speak for or against the project at $83 Neck Drive may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 23 attendees present, and there's no hands up at this time.
Seeing none here, not a close public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner roll call comments.
Member Charpentier.
Yeah, I'm still not clear on why we don't need a chapter 91 license on this.
Right, and my understanding is it's because the work is below the mean high water line.
Above.
I'm sorry, usually what we do here is we'll send all our comments to you right now, and then you can write them down.
Oh, okay, my bad.
That was my fault. Who's the next, Chuck?
Member Sargent.
Thank you for the newly submitted plans. It answered a lot of questions for me.
Member Viteri.
I have no additional questions.
Member Golub.
I am still a little confused by if you could explain to me where you're coming from. Nothing's coming from the water side. You don't have to answer this right now in a minute, and then you're going to work from the upland area. And what's going to be the new wall is gone, and then you're doing stonework, but you can follow that up after everyone else has their comments.
Member Jackson.
Yes, I just had what I think is a quick question. On the seawall instructions, you say that concrete will be poured at the 45-degree angle from the corner of the wall that meets with the neighbor's structurally sound seawall. But on your plan, it looks like it's kind of a center section of wall that's being repaired. Could you clarify?
Chuck, anything to add?
I did have one question regarding, I guess, part of the work, and then I guess whether it would still require DMF approval. Portions of the seawall that have fallen down are within mean high water. And so I guess if you're going to be removing those, that would be work that is within DMF's jurisdiction, in which case they might like to comment on the work. So I didn't know what was being planned for those pieces, if they're going to be removed or not.
Okay, sir, you can answer those questions now.
Sure, and Chuck, if you wouldn't mind upgrading Charles Manny to, or sorry, George Manny to a panelist. He's the contractor and applicant. He might be able to answer some of the those questions, but my understanding is that with the work that's above the mean high water line, the chapter 91 isn't required. If the high water line was up against the seawall, then it would require a chapter 91 license. In terms of how this is going to be constructed, and while George is being upgraded to panelist, I can tell you that in talking with George, all the work is going to occur from the terrace, the lawn area up top, and a machine would be used with a thumb to pull the material out, and as well as set the forms. The downhill forms would be set by hand, obviously with contractors. All the concrete pouring would be from up top. The backfilling of stone and gravel behind the concrete wall would be done from up top, and then of course top dressing and seating. So there's really no work being proposed from the water side.
Okay.
And lifting that, or getting that section of wall out. George, I don't know if you're going to wrap a chain around that and sort of lift it out with the machine.
Okay, Rick,
Does it-
hold on for a sec. We got George now. George, what's your name and address for the record?
My name is George Maney, the owner of Maney Landscaping and Excavation.
So you heard some of our questions and concerns. Can you help us with some of those, or?
Yes, so I'll be using a relatively large excavator to pick up the concrete parts of the wall. If I can't reach it, we will be using either rope or chain to pull it from the stone, I guess I would say, bed to the backyard of the property. So we don't have any machine going anywhere near the water. If there's anything small, we would be picking it up by hand.
And George, do you know roughly how long that's going to take you to lift that section of wall out from the water? Are we talking minutes, hours? We're not talking days or weeks or anything like that, right?
I could probably get all those pieces up in a day, up and moved away, and piled up to get removed, all within 8 hours.
And that one section that's actually in the water now during the higher tides, how long is it going to take you to remove that particular section?
That would probably, the most probably an hour and a half if there was any kind of difficulty, but usually it would
Okay.
only take a couple of minutes.
But just to be clear, George, you're working in a really sensitive area. I don't know how much work you've done in this area before, but it's resources. So the more you can expedite the process without causing any more harm, not that you would, it is better for the environment. We don't want things like, if you cannot drag that slab across the bed that's out there, that kind of thing, ideally would go a lot of way to make me happy as a commissioner on this board.
Yes, so if something was to happen and my machine couldn't pick it up, we would actually use a saw and cut it into pieces, so we wouldn't disturb anything that it's laying on top of.
And you would do that at low tide, right, George?
Everything would have to be done, between mid-tide to mid-tide. So everything would be it would be receding to coming in, and I'd make sure that it was done 6 hours before high tide, as well as 6 hours after high tide.
Excellent. Okay. Commissioners, anything else to add? Any more concerns?
I didn't get an answer to my question about whether this is touching the neighbor's
Oh.
wall or whether it's a central portion of wall, and that's a typo on the details.
George, I'm not sure if you caught that, or maybe you were becoming a panelist and didn't hear it all, but in your notes, the Word document, I can pull it up here. You had
Yes.
talked about the pouring of the concrete at a 45-degree angle. Concrete, I think that's the angle at which the concrete is poured, where it
so
meets the neighbor's wall. The angle of the wall isn't 45 degrees, right?
So the wall that meets that straight section that goes all the way to the neighbors when you're looking at the house from the sea. The section to the left goes to the property of the neighbors. And to the right, there's a piece of wall that's still connecting, but the only way that I can make it perfectly in line is if I disconnect that cracked section at a 45 that meets the other section. It kind of runs off at an angle to meet the further part of the yard.
Let me share my screen and I'll point to that
Okay.
section that you're talking about. So you're talking about this area right here?
So if you go further over, right, that section, that wall meets the wall that goes to the neighbors. If you go further over,
Here?
no, where the broken part is.
Up here.
So all that wall that's standing, that's connected, right? That section right there, that's all connected, meets the neighbor's yard, the neighbor's wall, right? So the broken
Right.
part. So that right, yep. So that
This
right
is the
there to
broken
the
part.
right, that's the broken part, and that right there that shows a 90-degree angle, that
Right
was
here.
moved because of the seawall. It was originally a 45-degree angle. So I have
Right,
to cut
okay.
that at the corner and make it a 45 to make
So
everything
this is what you're
straight.
talking about, this
Yes.
section right here. So this will be the 45. You're just basically, we're actually moving the wall farther from the resource by putting it in this zone.
Because it was
So there won't-
originally
there won't be a
at
90 here.
it was originally at a 45 at that corner, but because it's been broken for so long, there's a huge crack all the way down that 45, and it made it into a 90. The water has actually pushed it out.
Got it.
I'm having a little trouble finding the only thing we can't have happen is we can't approve work on someone else's property. This is all.
So the wall that is there is on the customer's property. It's on Lucas's property,
Yeah.
but it connects to the neighbor's property. Everything's connected to one wall.
Okay,
So it's not like they're all different sections. They're all abutted to each other.
Yeah, all of the work that's being proposed is on property owned by Lucas, who's the
Okay.
owner.
that's all.
Yeah,
All right, and Joe, did that answer your question or?
Well, yeah, I'll take it. Everybody else seems to understand it. Go ahead.
Commissioners, anything else to add? Any concerns, any questions? Okay, we want to move to close the hearing?
Sure. Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282955 at 83 Dolliver Neck Drive.
Carpentier seconds?
Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Clarkson,
Yes,
Terry,
Yes.
McGowan,
Yes,
Member Jackson.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282955 at 83 Dolliver Neck Drive with the aforementioned conditions and discussion.
Carpentier seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
I was not able to read the late submittal document, so I abstain.
Member Thurston,
yes,
Terry,
Yes.
McGowan,
yes.
Member Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, gentlemen, you're all set.
appreciate it. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and we'll look forward to getting the order.
Excellent. George, if you're still on the call, I would just, if you have any questions, it's a sensitive area, do not hesitate to talk to the agent, please. Anything? goes-
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. I work with a lot of wetland areas, whether it be French drains and all this stuff, so I do understand the severity of moving anything close to wet. I know that it'll sink or cause more problems. And I do my best when I'm doing jobs regardless to make sure that it doesn't look like I was there when the job's completed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we are at notice of intent 0282961 43 Shore Road. Ron Ronald Norton, construction and replacement of a septic system, paved driveway and hardscape, and land subject to coastal storm flowage, and buffer to coastal resource area. Dan Ottenheimer, Mill River Consulting, representative.
Hey, good evening, commissioners. Hi.
Hi.
So Dan Ottenheimer, Mill River Consulting, representing Ron Nordine, the owner of 43 Shore Road. He's on the call, as is landscape designer Matt Ulrich, in case the commission has any questions. Thank you, Chuck, for jumping the gun there. So this is a project that's going to provide a significant environmental enhancement to this single-family house that is located across the street, Shore Road, across the street from Magnolia Harbor. So I'd like to review with the commission some of the improvements we're going to be making. First, there will be a state-of-the-art septic system to replace the current one, which is less than ideal. And we were able to place the leach field, the most critical component, in the back portion of the lot and away from the water, and that is a good thing all around. The owner is adding additional living space and has worked with the architect to not increase the footprint. So it is going to go up 1 story, but there's no increase in the footprint of the house. And I think that's a great plus here. There is going to be a small expansion of an open deck on the northern side of the house, but that's going to be an open deck, but the house itself is not going to increase in footprint. There has been a landscape plan developed that was provided to the commission, and you can see everything that's hatched here with little dots is going to be native species planting. There's going to be over 2,000 square feet of native species planting here, and the current lot has 0 native species planting. So I think you're going to see a significant enhancement of environmental benefits from what's going to happen at the end of this project. In addition, there are going to be 2 trees removed and 5 new trees installed. So we are exceeding the commission's general guidelines of a 2-to-1 replacement. The water on the site is going to be properly managed through a series of trench drains and flow into a rain garden that is going to be built in the center area of the driveway. Thank you, Chuck, for pointing that out. This is going to be a significant improvement over the current situation where water just sheet flows off the driveway right onto Shore Road, and we are going to intercept that water and slowly infiltrate it into the rain garden. And then a few things from a procedural perspective. The commission might want to know that both the Board of Health and the Zoning Board of Appeals have already approved this project, and as you know, you like to be the last entity in the approval process, so that has already occurred as well. There was initially some questions raised to the commission from one of the neighbors, and you'll see your office received an email today from that neighbor saying that they have had all their questions answered, and things are acceptable to move forward. So that's what we have, and we'd appreciate your consideration of an order of conditions this evening.
Okay, thank you. So first up would be to open it up for public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against, chair slip. For or against the project may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 22 attendees, and there are no hands up at this time.
Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Commissioner roll call comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comments.
Member Sargent,
Thank you for the meaningful revisions. I'd like a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of mitigation plantings.
Member Viteri,
I also thank you for the improvements to the projects, incorporated prior comments of mine, so I have no additional comments.
Member Bella,
Nothing else to add.
Member Jackson.
Could you just clarify the letter of map revision impact and when you might expect that? And you have land, you will have less land subject to coastal storm flowage. Is that accurate?
Okay, you can answer that, Mr. Ottenheimer. We're done with roll call.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't want to step over anybody. So, yeah, Commissioner Jackson, you had asked this at the last meeting as well. And so by way of background, the property did go through the process that FEMA allows to adjust the flood zone. And that's, as you know, called a letter of map revision. That was issued and it is effective next month. So you appropriately called it out at the last meeting that we had submitted the notice of intent based on the assumed new flood zone. And technically that flood zone doesn't go into effect until next month. So with your revised submission for this meeting was a new notice of intent with the calculations for the current flood zone, which will change in a month from now.
Thank you, and my apologies for my faulty memory.
No, it's okay.
Josh, anything to add?
So you're talking about a septic upgrade. I was just curious, the components, are they going to remain, other older components, are they going to remain in place or be removed? And so I want to make sure that they're being decommissioned properly.
Yes, thank you. That's always going to happen. That's part of what the health department makes sure. Yes, no doubt.
With that then, if commissioners are comfortable, we can close the hearing.
Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282961 at 43 Shore Road.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Theory,
Yes.
Member Gola,
Yes,
and Member Jackson.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282961 at 43 Shore Road.
Charpentier seconds?
Call Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Sargent,
Yes.
Member Theory,
Yes.
Member Gola,
yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, you're all set, sir.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you very much, commissioners.
You're welcome. Have a good night. Next up. Next up, notice of intent 0282968. 22 Raven Lane, Lori Watson and Sue Dolan, Hawthorne Point Condo Association, repairs to existing retaining wall and buffer zone to coastal resource area, land subject to coastal storm flowage. Lori Watson and Sue Dolan request a continuation to, March 6th, 2024.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282968 at 22 Raven Lane to the Conservation Commission meeting of March 6th, 2024.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Theory,
Yes.
Member Gola,
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. Moving along, next up would be notice of intent 0282965, 132 Wheeler Street, Robert Irwin, for repairs to existing stone bulkhead and pier in riverfront area, coastal bank, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. They also request a continuation to December 6th, 2023.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 0282965 at 132 Wheeler Street to the Gloucester Conservation Commission meeting of December 6th, 2023.
Charpentier seconds?
Call Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Sargent,
Yes.
Member Theory,
Yes.
Member Gola,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, moving along, we're into new business now. We have RDA 1773, 436 Washington Street, Codenatton, representing for removal of vegetation, installation of a natural playground and path in riverfront area and buffer zone to coastal resource area, Codenatton representing. I'm not seeing.
I don't see Cody in there. If anybody else is present to represent this, please raise your hand.
So I think you sent out a note, Chuck, about this.
Several.
No, about our next steps.
Oh, I was thinking that, if he doesn't appear, or somebody doesn't appear by the end of December, that, I'd let him know that he needs to show up before then, or else we'll.
I guess that's kind of my question. Can we, I know with a notice of intent, it can go on they can continue indefinitely, but I guess he isn't even here to continue. So.
I mean, I think you can open the public comment and vote on it.
That's okay, that's okay. Well, look,
Yeah.
this, I think the gentleman was dealing with some family issues or something, so we can let it slide for a while longer. Not a big,
Okay.
it looks like.
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue RDA 1773 at 436 Washington Street to the Conservation Commission meeting of December 6, 2023.
The Charpentier seconds?
We'll call Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Sergeant.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Villa.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Good. Next up, moving down the list a little bit here, we're at notice of intent 0282963 52 Shore Road. Clear locker, repairs to a existing seawall, building expansion, deck construction, installation of a septic system and landscape wall in coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and buffer zone to coastal resource area. Dan Ottenheimer of Mill River Consultants represented. There we go. Dan, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Yes.
There you are. And address the record.
Yes, Dan Ottenheimer, Mill River Consulting, 6 Sergeant Street in Gloucester. And I'm sorry, Chairman, I had just stepped out of the room, so I apologize. Are you talking about 52 Shore Road now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I apologize.
No worries.
We have a project that before you this evening is a proposal to upgrade the septic system at this particular house. You may recall several weeks ago, we had submitted a notice of intent to undertake other work at the site, including installation of a replacement seawall. And that hearing was never opened up. In the interim, we have revised our application and plans for your consideration, and it's solely just for the replacement of the septic system at this existing dwelling. We are looking to put in a pretty state-of-the-art septic system and replace the cesspool that's at its house. Chuck, do you want to show the site plan, or would you like me to? Oh, thank you. So you can see Shore Road at the top, the existing house, and Magnolia Harbor is, well, now it's on the left, now it's on the top. And there's an existing cesspool where one of the current tanks is. We're looking to pump that out and install a treatment tank and a pump tank and then a leach field in the yard. The entire work zone would be surrounded by straw wattle. And that's essentially the scope of the work. There is a tree you can see that is likely going to be impacted during construction. And we are prepared to plant a native tree species elsewhere on the lot if that's something that the commission would like us to do. And otherwise, we'd encourage you to consider this order of conditions that's before you tonight.
Okay, thank you. First, I'll open up for public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 52 Shore Road may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 20 attendees present, and there are no hands up at this time.
Seeing none here, none, close the public comment period. Why don't we move to roll call commissioner comments?
Member Charpentier.
Well, I'm always partial to trees, so if a tree comes down, I think we're looking at replacing with 2.
Member Sergeant.
I agree with the previous comment, and I'd like a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of those trees.
Member Terry.
Yeah, it looks like the soil absorption system for the septic is within the 50-foot setback under the regulations, and I believe under the larger setback from the city's regulations. And therefore, under section 10.033, we cannot presume that it protects the interests of the Wetlands Act. So my questions are, I think you mentioned there's a current cesspool is the current sewage disposal method for the house. Is that correct? Is this a renovation or replacement of an existing system? Has the applicant applied for a variance or Board of Health approval for this system? And will this system discharge into the resource area?
Member Bello.
Nothing else to add at this time.
Member Jackson.
No additional comments.
Okay, Mr. Ottenheimer, you have a chance to respond.
Sure. I had no opposition whatsoever to a 2-to-1 tree planting scenario if that's needed. We're obviously, it's a lovely tree and the owner does not wish to take it down. It just may need to for the purpose of construction. So it's not a guarantee, but if it does, we're not adverse to replacing that with 2 trees and a 2-year monitoring period. The Board of Health has approved this plan. This is an existing house. It's what Title V calls an upgrade. The current wastewater system is essentially a cesspool which provides very little treatment of the sewage, and we're replacing that with a state-of-the-art treatment system and then leach field that'll provide very high quality wastewater into the leach field and then into the soil beneath it. So this is definitely a substantial improvement to the septic system from what's there now to what will be there in the future.
All right, let's move on to the commissioners. Do you have anything else? Did I answer all your questions, Peter?
Yeah, I'd ask Chuck if he has any questions on it too. I wonder if I guess I don't know, is the Board of Health approval in our records as well? And I don't know, that I suppose that should be submitted as well with the before any approval is issued.
Okay. Chuck,
Yeah, we
comments?
certainly can get you a copy of that. No problem.
Excellent. Chuck, anything to add?
Just again, the decommissioning, property decommissioning of the existing system.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments? We want to move to close the hearing.
Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282963 at 52 Shore Road.
Ms. Charpentier seconds?
Call Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
Member Bello.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282963 at 52 Shore Road with the aforementioned conditions, including receipt of the Board of Health approval for the septic system replacement.
Charpentier seconds?
I'll call Member Charpentier.
Yes?
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Terry.
Yes.
Member Bello.
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. You're all set.
Wonderful. Commissioners, thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Next up, we have notice of intent 0282970-616 Western Ave. Ellen Byrne, rebuild of a multifamily home, including new foundation and buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Ed Goodenhow represented.
Yeah, try to promote him. He's got his hand up now. There you go.
Yeah, you're gonna have to turn your, there you go. You there, Mr. Goodenhow?
I'm hoping to be.
Name
Can
and
you hear
address,
me?
name and address for the record, sir.
Dan Goodnow, Off Peak Architectural Services, 31 Fuller Street, Gloucester.
Okay. So just a brief description of what's going on.
Yeah, we had well, I live with the owner, so it's a little more complicated. Oh, there's the drawing. Okay. We had a fire, what, about 18 months ago, Memorial Day weekend. The third floor tenant had a accident, and so the house was partially burned, and then the building inspector requested part of it be torn down, and then eventually we ended up tearing the whole thing down because it was deemed unable to be renovated. The structure was deteriorated, insufficient, and the foundations in particular were substandard, to say the least. They only extended 6 inches into the ground. It was a rubble wall that was falling apart in many places. So we confirmed that with a test pit right along the side of the foundation wall, and we could see that it didn't go down anywhere. And that was very common back in the late 1800s when this was built. The records say 1920, but in judging the framing constructions and the style of nail, I would put the construction earlier than 1920, probably late 1800s, 1890 maybe, something like that. It was, before the fire, it was a 3-family, 6-bedroom house. What we are proposing is a 3-family, 4-bedroom house. You can see the existing septic system was all spared by the fire except for the control panels mounted on the side of the building. They got burned. I actually have some photographs. And we have a verbal agreement at this point in time with who's the septic company? Yeah, no, not Wind River. All Seasons Septic, to repair the controls, pump out the system, and then recommission it and certify it, I guess is the name of the what we have to have done. So that we have an agreement of $10,000 to do that work for us as part of our budget. The house itself will be rebuilt on pretty much the existing footprint, although you can see the red areas at the rear, are new construction. And then on the left-hand side, I can do it too. There, my arrow. There's a couple of decks on the second floor here. This is a handicap ramp to the tenant entry right here. And that basically is required by the Mass Handicap, what is it? I'm losing my mind here a little bit. I went through chemo earlier this year, and I've kind of lost a little bit of my memory, I think. But anyhow, that ramp and this side ramp are both required for handicap accessibility. We also have to be a group 1 handicap accessible apartment on the first floor, which we are doing. So we did get a couple variances from them in these boxes, I believe. Right, here's one, here's another one, here's another one, and so on. There was an existing swimming pool, above ground pool here that we already removed. That's gone, and we're not going to replace it. These are the septic tanks. There's 3 tanks here, and then this is in the deck to the pool used to come out like this. So you can see it was a little different shape, and we're squaring it off and not getting quite as close to the wetlands in the back. So it's pulled back a bit. All our setbacks are improved from what was there. Our lot coverage is fine. You can see the tabulations over here on zoning. And like I said, the number of bedrooms are reduced. And the total square footage is reduced, the building height is reduced. And those last two things are the main things that were required for us able to rebuild after a fire. It's one of the zoning requirements that you cannot increase the footprint. And no, you can't increase the buildable area and you can't increase the height. So that's pretty much that. That's was our guiding directive from the zoning. And you can see we have our silt barrier. The actual silt barrier is a little different alignment. It's a little bit closer. It kind of actually goes from the corner of this shed across. So it's like this. There is an existing shed that was there when we bought the house that's on the other property. We're not touching that at this point in time, unless the owner would ask us to remove it or whatever he wants us to do, but we haven't contacted the owner of this land. That's pretty much it.
Okay, I guess what we need from you more is a little more description of how this is or is not going to impact the resource. It looks like you're showing some trees potentially. I don't know if those are trees.
Yeah, there's some trees and native planting on the native plantings on the north side, and there's 2 trees that we're adding. If you add up those areas, I think there was a tabulation in one of these schedules right here. I can't zoom in, but this one right here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that tells you that we're well above what we need to do.
Okay, so you're not the building, this footprint of this building that you're building now, is it any bigger than what was there in terms of being impervious? Is it?
Yes, yes, the red areas, the 2 red areas, this area and the other one right here. Those are the increases.
Increases in to the resource?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so you sit tight now. We're gonna open this up for public comment and then we'll.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so right now, whoever where are we? Lost cut my track. Here we are. Okay, anyone who wants to speak for or against the project at 616 Western Ave may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 20 attendees present and there are no hands up.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll close the public comment period. Why don't we go into commissioner roll call comments? At this point, Mr. Goodnow, try and take notes. All the commissioners are going to make comments now. When we're done, you'll respond to our comments, please.
Got it. Thank you.
Member Carpenter.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I thought I heard the applicant say that there was no change in the footprint of the house, but we have increased the impervious area. So a little explanation on that.
Member Sargent.
I would prefer more of the mitigation plantings relocated closer to the resource area. And I'd want a 2-year monitoring for the mortality of mitigation plantings. And the erosion control should be on the same lot as this building. And all dewatering must be adequately treated before being discharged.
Member Viteri.
Yeah, I'd like to see native grass or native plantings in the area of the former pool.
Member Bello.
Nothing else to add at this time.
Member Jackson.
I have no further comments.
Okay, Mr. Goodnow, we had a couple of, Chuck, did you have anything to add?
Okay.
No.
Just to clarify, I guess I think I slightly remember that I said no increase, but I think I said basically no increase or something like that. But the red areas are increase of the footprint. The 2 areas laid out in red.
And you're gonna mitigate with the green areas to offset that?
That's the idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And we can move the reason the fence went in there is my demolition guy put it in there without talking to me. And he didn't even realize that part of that backyard was not ours. So we can have that moved up onto the site, right along the back of the property line. That would help everybody, I think. So I'll have that done probably next week.
Okay. And then our other big question or comment was, which is very important to the commission, is we always like to see any of your mitigation plantings as close to the resource as possible. That's why they're there, that's their function, so we would appreciate whatever.
Yeah, the
you-
reason I chose that north side is we could never get any grass to grow over there. And I thought some ferns and things like that would be great, and I picked fiddleheads because we could eat them. But,
Your selection-
My
your
favorite.
but I do have a good friend, Kevin McNeil, who's a landscape architect, and that's who helped me select this, and so we can certainly move this stuff to the back if we need to, and then monitor it for 2 years. That would be fine.
Correct, your selection isn't wrong, it's your location that needs to be adjusted.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you. And waste, I guess you're talking about if we had to de-water the foundation hole, is that the idea?
Correct.
And you say treated with what?
Normally, they're treated to make sure that sedimentation doesn't be discharged to the resource area.
How's that done? I'm not familiar with that. I'm sorry.
Your contractor should know, the bottom line is dewatering, you just gotta include dewatering in your process over there.
Okay, all right.
When you're digging your hole, we don't want that dirt going into the resource.
Yeah, we're not gonna, none of the dirt will be piled on. We're gonna take away everything and it'll be piled up on probably on the driveway outside of the 100-foot buffer. And
You
in
just
fact, that would be an issue if we did it there. I'd want to make sure that none of that dirt washed into the street, because what happens, it could wash into the street on 127 and then flow down the street and into the stream. So I would take care of that too.
And that's a concern that we really don't look at, unfortunately. We're here to protect the other side.
Well,
Both
in
sides.
reality, it would still get to the same point. So I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, commissioners, anything else to add here?
I was just going to reassure him, he doesn't have to take out the fiddleheads. He can put native plants on
Will they grow
closer
in
to
the
the resource area, but you don't have to take out the fiddleheads.
Okay, all right,
Leave them in.
all right.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
these would be orders of condition for your vote, basically. Got it.
yes, yeah.
All right.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282970 at 616 Western Avenue.
Charpentier seconds?
I'll call on Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Theory,
Yes.
Villa,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282970 at 616 Western Avenue with the aforementioned conditions.
Charpentier seconds?
Oh, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Theory,
Yes.
Member Villa,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, sir, you're all set.
Thank you very much. And I apologize. I don't know why my camera wasn't working, but
That's
thank
okay.
you.
thank you.
Not a problem.
It's not a big deal. Have a good night. Okay, next up, we're still on Western Ave. We have a note, did a number drop for 30 Western Ave, Chuck, or no?
I did not see one earlier. Let me check real quick here.
No, okay. So next up is notice of intent, NOI 028, no DEP number at this time. So no matter what, we will have to continue this. 30 Western Avenue, Joseph Talty, repairs to an existing seawall in coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and buffer zone to coastal resource areas. Kevin Talty, representing.
Should be promoting now.
Hello, you there, Kevin?
Yes,
Okay. Name
can
and
you hear me?
address. Yep.
Yes,
Name-
we can.
Is my video not working?
No, it's not.
Okay, is that okay? I don't know. I'm not very technical, so if I could just leave with the voice, that's great. If you guys are okay.
Yeah, for
Sure.
now. But for the record, we need your name and address.
Yeah, Kevin Talty, representing 30 Western Avenue in Gloucester. I reside at 4 Victoria Lane in York, Maine.
All right, so brief description of the project, please.
Yeah, so what we have is the existing seawall on the front side that faces Gloucester Harbor. It's a wall that was likely constructed in the mid to late 1800s. It's a stone wall, very good shape. But from time to time, we come in and we have to do some routine maintenance in certain areas, as you're seeing there in photo 5. The stone structure needs to be repointed from time to time from the wave action. Our primary concern right now is repairing this photo you see in photo 6, which is at some point in time, I think probably predated by family's ownership, was they decided on that very front facing portion of the wall, they formed concrete rather than going through the exercise of constantly repointing, and they put that concrete face on. It's above the tide, but it does, kind of mitigate some of the wave action during storms. And I'm assuming at some point in time, they had some concerns about the waves and the repointing, so they put that concrete face on. I appeared before the board in 2015 with a similar type application. And this section of wall was part of it. And I don't recall the circumstance at the time, but we repointed the areas of the wall, but this area didn't get addressed. And I'm not sure if it was time of year, why it didn't happen. But we got to do something about it now. It's about 8 years later, and it's just the concrete's eroded further. In that concrete face you see there in photo 6, it's a series of rebar cage that was built and drilled into the rock wall. It formed and poured maybe 3 or 4 inches thick with a cap at the top. And that cap at the top secures a fence, a chain link fence. So since where we're at now is that cap is kind of deteriorated significantly, and the fence is not secure any longer. So we need to address it. So the plan would be for us to do all the work from above. We would use a series of pump jacks on that section of wall, and chip out some of any of the loose material that's there. Put a system in place where we're capturing that stuff from the pump jacks. It's not going to hit the resource, and any small pieces that fell down onto the beachfront we would pick up. And so we would do all that work from above with pump jack staging, and then pour. What we're proposing is pouring something about 3 inches, 3 inches thick on top of that wall, just to resurface it, cover it back up.
Okay. Anything else to add?
I mentioned we will at the same time address some of the other areas that might need some additional repointing. It's not much. That's usually done by hand on the beach, mixed at the top, and we mix the concrete at the top. And someone would come down, and mason comes down and repoints any areas that are of concern.
Okay. All right, let me open up for public comment. Anyone in the public who wants to speak for or against the project at 30 Western Avenue may do so now by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
We currently have 17 attendees, and there are no hands up.
Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment period. Before we go into the commissioner comments, Kevin, we're gonna have to continue this no matter what, because DEP did not give you a number yet. So we're gonna have to continue, but just so you know.
Yeah, it's, Devin, I just got word from Devin the other day. She sent me a note that the DEP had further comments. And I think what I just have to do is that, from what I understand, their comments were, I just have to give a better description of kind of the detail I just described.
Yeah,
That's what it sounds like to me.
I think that's gonna come up with commissioners as well, but, okay, why don't we move on to commissioner comments? So all the commissioners are going to speak first, Kevin? and
Sure.
then write down our comments and then reflect back when we're done, okay?
Okay, yep.
Member Charpentier,
No comments.
Member Sergeant,
I'm glad you are aware of the DEP's comments, and those were going to be some of mine. And I also want to make sure that if any work is going to be done from the water side, that no motorized equipment will be utilized. Thank you.
Member Viteri,
No comments.
Member Villa,
I think we do, I think it's gonna get captured in what DEP said, but I think, or their concerns, I think we're gonna need a little bit more detail of how you're gonna do stuff there down on the resource, just to be, but, that's my only concern, is to make sure that working in the resource is a tricky area and that we have the right documentation to review it.
Member Jackson,
I would expand on that, to say, please include details about how you're going to keep the site clean if there is a spill when you're repointing, that kind of thing. Just make sure that gets cleaned up. So if you could put in some details about the process there, I would appreciate it.
Okay, Chuck, anything to add?
nope, I think you guys have captured everything.
All right, Kevin, so do you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, so we wouldn't be using any motorized equipment. Like I said, everything's going to be done up top with manual pump staging in the areas that we need to do. There will be a mason if we have to, when we're repointing some of the rock wall on the corner of near the right of way that comes down from Western Avenue. Around that corner, that 90 degrees, that's all done by hand. In the past, when we went for our last permit, I recall that we had agreed that we would mix all the concrete up on the parking lot and walk it down in small buckets, barge it with, typical masonry tools in small areas, and anything that dropped, they pick up. As far as the pump staging goes, what I'll do when I submit to DEP is I'll describe the process of how we'll capture any of the loose concrete as we're moving it from that wall. I just see a series of tarps that are attached below that capture it and be able to capture most of it. And then it's going to be done in between tides, obviously. It wouldn't be done at a high tide or anything. And so, the day that they clean that stuff up we could pick up anything that happened to slip away from us by hand. So I think those are the two comments, right?
I would agree. The only thing I would add is that it's something we used to employ. I don't think we do it as much anymore, but if you have a significant spill, let's say a wheelbarrow of concrete resource, you need to contact the agent.
Okay.
During the process.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that DEP wanted was to show where the resource is, which to those of us who know the site seems pretty obvious, but
Yeah.
they still need that done.
Okay. I didn't see the specific comments. Devin's email to me maybe suggested that she said, see the comments below, but she might have intended to forward me. Maybe I'll contact her and make sure I get the actual comments.
That would be perfect.
You have to continue anyways, so.
Yeah.
you'll have your time to-
Do you want to continue to the meeting of December 6th and hope you can get everything done by then?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do, because I think as much as we can, we'd like to get this before the weather hits. And if I understand correctly, we have a appeal period of 10 days after a meeting.
Yeah.
So
After an approval, yeah.
after an approval. So, I don't really, it's not something I want to be doing in January, February, and we'd like to have it done before the end of December if we could, but
Okay.
I'm not sure. But yeah, December 6th would be great.
Okay, you have some homework to do, and we'll see you on December 6th. Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 028 unassigned DEP number at 30 Western Avenue to the Conservation Commission meeting of December 6th, 2023.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Viteri,
Yes.
Member Bella,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay,
We'll
thank you.
See you soon.
Yep.
Okay, next up, sorry, I dropped my head there. Next up is, did the next DEP number drop, Chuck, or no?
No. Double check.
Notice of intent 028, no DEP number 171 and 281 R Magnolia Avenue, Mag LLC, construction of a 26-unit residential subdivision in riverfront area and buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. Evan Govindran, representing from DeRosa Environmental Consulting, Inc.
Good evening, Commissioners. Evan Govindran here of DeRosa Environmental. I do have a team with me. If we could promote Mr. James McKenna, Michael DeRosa, David Kelly of Meridian Associates, Mr. Wayne Finnegan, and Mr. Chris McCarthy.
Okay. Oh, quite a show here. All right. Why don't we start by name and address? But you already did your name and address.
I did, yeah, and I think Mr. McKenna is going to introduce the rest of the team properly.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. James McKenna, attorney at law, office on Eastern Ave in Gloucester. It's good to be with you all this evening. We hope to keep our presentation short because I know it's getting late. But thank you for hearing us tonight. We have with us Wayne Finnegan, the representative of Howland Development here, and Mag LLC as owners of the property. We also have David Kelly of Meridian. He's our project engineer, and I will be deferring to Dave on a few matters as well. We have Chris McCarthy, who's our project lead. We've had great help through Chris's understanding of Gloucester, and it's been terrific to have him on the team. We also have of counsel, Richard Nyland. I don't believe he's here tonight, but we are using him as environmental counsel. And we have, of course, Michael DeRosa and Evan Govindran from DeRosa Environmental, who will speak this evening. So we're very happy to be here in front of you. We're pleased to report that the planning board 3 weeks ago approved this project for a 13 structured, essentially 26 unit residential cluster development in a, I think, a very unique and favorable design for this land. You may know some history of the site. Many plans were proposed before this site over the past 25 years, and we're very happy what we've resulted in now, and as was the planning board, through a lot of input from the various city departments and a lot of assistance by the planning department. We've come up with a very good plan that really concentrates the development, but it achieves some enormous benefits for the city. Principally, the fact that this abuts Ravenswood. We're preserving over 75 acres of land and open space for the benefit of the city. That preserves some existing trails. It preserves a number of just terrific features of the site. Perhaps you'd like to have a site visit at some time. But there are a number of natural features on the site that were worth preserving. This is a limited development, really, to make the most of everything that this site has to offer. So with that, I'd like to have, if we can pull up a plan, have David just basically showcase the project as it is and point out the features of it, if you can, David, and then identify, the wetland and resource areas.
All right, before everyone jumps in, so let's kind of keep this as organized as possible. If I guess I would say probably Mr. McKenna, maybe you should just tell us who should be speaking first.
Well, we would just want to get orientation here for the commission, that you
Who's the best
understand
in-
what the site is, and then,
That's in your team to do that.
and David Kelly will do that.
Okay. Nice,
Good,
David.
good evening. Can y'all hear me?
You're a little light. Get closer to your mic, I think it'd be better.
I will try and talk as loud as I can. How's that?
Better. Go ahead.
My apologies. So as Jim said, sorry, David Kelly, Meridian Associates, project engineer. The parcel contains approximately 95 acres, and the project will only disturb about 9 acres, thus preserving well over 75 acres of natural vegetated land to be used by the city and their residents. The project proposes about a 1,700 linear foot road starting from Magnolia Ave, culminating in a T turnaround up at the top. Zoom in a little bit here. Here we go. The roadway is approximately 26 feet wide. Cape Cod berm on either side, a sidewalk on the side of the proposed dwellings, vertical granite curbing at the entrance. The site will be serviced by municipal water. It will be serviced by underground telephone, electric, and data. There's no natural gas out here, obviously. There's no town city sewer out here. The project will be serviced by an on-site low pressure private septic system that will have some extensive pre-treatment devices and located up at the top of the project with a single leach field located down in the southeastern corner. The project meets and exceeds all DEP stormwater management standards. There are 3 infiltration basins, one to the north, one in the center, and one down near the bottom. They remove all of the required TSS amounts. The closed drainage system consists of deep sump catch basins with hoods, 4 Technic units, as well as the previously mentioned infiltration basins. Just scrolling through my list here. The total impervious area created by the development is about 2.5 acres. And again, that's 2.5 acres of impervious area on a 92 acre site. So very minimal. Everything has been condensed into this 9 acre disturbance. We have received approvals from engineering, conditional thumbs up, I guess you could say, for Board of Health, Fire Department, and the building inspector. So the project stands as it is before you, and we're here to answer any questions. And Evan, I think we'll get more into the environmental aspects of the project. That's
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Evan, why don't you take over and show where the resource area is and identify how we're planning to mitigate any impacts.
I can do that, Evan, if you want me to. So let me share my screen. And walk you through a couple things. Everyone can hear me well? Mike DeRosa, DeRosa Environmental.
Yep.
Just by way of orientation, what we did was we blew up David's plan and joined the match lines so you can see the entire project instead of on 2 sheets, on 1 sheet. A large portion of this project is going to be the restoration of the area between Cedar Swamp and the proposed roadway. So because of the grading that's required for the drainage work, I'm going to zoom in. We've got 2 big catch basins here and then one up in the back. And you can see the contour lines all along here. So there's a fair amount of impact to the buffer zone and another big detention basin in the back there. So a lot of trees are coming down as part of this project. It's largely a beech, American beech forest, which sadly, I think everyone knows our beech forests have been attacked this year by, or the last 5 years, I guess, by beech leaf disease, which is not doing good things. So we are removing a lot of trees, but it may have come at the right time. We have 199 trees marked to be removed, and we have 185, well, 220 going back in. Let me start with this. This is basically, the other part of this cedar swamp is that it functions very much as a large vernal pool. We counted just along this edge over 100 egg masses last spring or the spring before, I can't remember when we did that, but there's lots of activity for salamanders in this area. So that informed our thinking on the restoration of this entire piece. So we have everything, including habitat piles, rocks and boulder in the boulder knee wall is going to be used for habitat and left open for nooks and crannies and refugia for salamanders and wood frogs in particular. Those are the two species that we saw there. Habitat piles, which I have a photo of one that we've done. So we've taken some of the brush, and we're going to do this all over that area, created these sort of intentional habitat piles for the brush that will be planting around. But these areas provide excellent habitat for wildlife and critters generally. There'll be a lot of down logs that we're going to use and just leave in the area for habitat, particularly for salamanders, and boulders as well. So this will be the habitat sort of base first layer, right? The structural features that go along with that habitat restoration. That will happen during the site, sort of phase one, the site preparation work. That'll all be done there. The planting plan, which we have to go with this, is extensive. We have over 200 trees going in our phase one plantings, which will largely be the trees. We have sassafras, tupelo, swamp white oak, bitternut hickory, eastern white oak, shagbark hickory, and yellow birch. All of these would be excellent habitat hardwood forest to begin our restoration of this area. And then in the second phase, we have red maple, silver maple, striped maple, hackberry, gray birch. And we've included 2 southern species that sort of assist with species migration to work some of that climate change restoration into this. So I've included sweet gum and sweet bay magnolia as 2 of those. Those are 2 good canopy species that will provide, be successful into the future as climate changes and southern species become more present. It's an extensive plan. We have a large amount of shrubs as well going in here and herbaceous species. So this area is going to be completely rebuilt and reestablished, and largely with the informed by salamander habitat and species that utilize the cedar swamp. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about. I know we need to continue this meeting, so we don't have a file number. And we want to hear back from the commission and also DEP.
Okay, so if that's a presentation, which was very good, by the way, I guess we'll move on to commissioner roll call. First, let me open it up for public comment. Anybody in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 171 or 281R Magnolia Ave may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device. Seeing that Linda Cook has a question.
Put their hand down.
No, I guess not. Anyone else? No one wants to speak.
No. 11 attendees, no hands up this time.
Okay. Seeing none, hearing none, I'll close public comment period. You want to go to roll call commissioner comments?
Yep, Member Cook.
No comments.
Member Sargent.
Yeah, it's noted that this presentation, it's presented as a riverfront, even though there's not yet an official determination of the stream as perennial or intermittent. Thank you for doing that. Given the habitat enhancement proposals for the vernal pools, it appears that some of the wetlands are being considered vernal pool habitat before being officially certified. As a result, I believe the stormwater collection system should be redesigned. Vernal pools are considered to be critical areas in stormwater design, requiring treatment of at least the first inch of rainfall. However, the stormwater system is designed to treat only the first 1/2 inch of rainfall, and the stormwater drainage system is designed to discharge ultimately within roughly 20 feet of approximately the wetland system. Also, there should be a shutoff in the detention basins in the event of a hazardous surface spill, as well as a prohibition on the use of road salt, herbicides, and pesticides. And I didn't see a snow removal plan. And I'm wondering if there are any plans to certify these vernal pools in the near future. It appears that some of the proposed buildings are within an area of priority habitat. I suggest that perhaps there should be an overall wildlife study. It's proposed that there be less than 1-to-1 replacement for loss of existing trees within the buffer zone, and even more vegetation would need to be removed from outside the buffer zone for the construction of roadways, lawns, and buildings. I'm concerned about what the loss of existing vegetation would have on wildlife. If approved, there would be a vast woodland area interrupted by a housing development, interrupting existing wildlife corridors to the swamp and stream. Lastly, the septic system plan and the submittal is incomplete, as it doesn't include the enhanced nitrogen removal and the 2 compartment tanks that were required by the Board of Health last spring. Thank you.
Member Viteri.
Thank you for the detailed presentation, particularly the detailed habitat plan and the planting plan, and for the kind of the plan, the greater plan of the project to preserve so much open space. And echo Commissioner Sargent's concerns. I personally will probably have some conditions that I'll circulate to Chuck, at least to review for construction, pre-construction and during construction of the stormwater systems and basins. So I'll reserve other comments as I know we're continuing.
Member Villa.
Nothing else to add that hasn't already been said. I agree with Mr. Everybody's comments on the commission side. The only thing I would ask is the remaining land. Is there any way that is going to be protected? The large chunk that is not going to be touched. Is it going to go in a CR? How's that going to be handled?
Yes, it's going to go into a conservation restriction, and we're exploring alternatives for potential involvement with Greenbelt or trustees of reservations and groups such as that to take over long-term stewardship of the open space. Yes, is your answer.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else, commissioners?
Member Jackson.
To go.
Thank you. Hang on, Rob. I agree with the preceding comments. I do like those habitat piles. I think those are neat. I would like to see a little fleshing out of your alternatives analysis. You basically say you can't do anything else but what you're doing. I would like things like what alternatives you explored and why they are not feasible on the infiltration basin. You know, what if you made it smaller? Well, your response is you can't. Those kinds of things, just a little fleshing out according to DEP alternative scopes and guidelines. Since that's one of the first things we actually have to address on this.
Right. Okay, so it looks like you guys got some stuff to do, and we don't, like we say, have a DEP number, so we're going to continue. Anything quickly you want to say to ask us briefly, if you could?
Well, we certainly would appreciate what was said tonight, and if we can get a record of those issues, we would want to go through them item by item so we can see if we can address everything that has been raised here tonight. So we appreciate all your comments.
Okay. It's a significant amount of stuff, so you're going to be able to get that done in 2 weeks, or you're going to go for a little further out?
We'll have to see. That's a pretty extensive list that Commissioner Sargent raised, and we certainly want to pay attention to them very seriously. So we'll have to see about repositioning or doing what we can do to accommodate some of those details in our site plan and see how we can achieve the objectives that Commissioner Sargent raised.
Okay, so you want to come back in 2 weeks, is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think that's fair time for us to at least give a fair attempt at meeting those conditions.
Okay, if you have to push it, just let the agent know.
Sure.
I had a couple questions too, Rob, if I might.
Yep.
Let's see, I guess the one question I had was on the delineation. This grainier picture here is from the previous ANRAD that you had withdrawn, and included. This is the pool that's shown here. I believe that's a vernal pool now. You also had this other area here. There's a land subject to flooding, which I don't see on the current plan, and I believe that would put that area right here. So I was curious as to what the determination was on that, since it is kind of right in line and possibly going to be impacted by the sewer line there. I also had questions. There's no discussion of bank, and I believe the intermittent stream up in the northwestern corner of the project. There's allowance of impacting 10% or 50%, 50 feet of a bank, whichever is less. I believe you're impacting more of that area than 50 feet, in which case it would definitely require a wildlife habitat evaluation. That was also requested in previous ORADs for the site, that a wildlife habitat evaluation is done. So I'd like to see that. Regarding the stormwater, table RR in the stormwater handbook talks about a setback for recharge BMPs of at least 50 feet from surface water. And I believe some of those are pretty close, if not within 50 feet of the wetland. As Member Sargent brought to the attention, you lean pretty heavy on considering the Cedar Swamp essentially a vernal pool, in which case table CA2 standard 6 would require a setback of at least 100 feet from those vernal pool waters for recharge BMPs. I also kind of wonder about creating habitat for these species within those retention basins, if we're not, attracting species to an area that we may not actually want them, especially if those areas are going to be maintained in the future. I guess I'd like to understand a bit more about that, how we're not, possibly creating a sink situation for some of those species. And I think that's all I have for now. I'd like to see what Natural Heritage and DEP have to say as well.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, want to move to continue this, Joe?
Commissioner Jackson moves to continue NOI 028, then unassigned DEP number at 171 and 281 Rear Magnolia Avenue to the Conservation Commission meeting of December 6, 2023.
Charpentier seconds,
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
yes,
Member Sergeant,
yes,
Member Viteri,
Yes.
Member Gullis,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, Commission. Appreciate your attention to our.
No worries. Good night.
Thank you.
And I did want to say, Linda Cook, your hand went up again after your public comment period was ended. You will have a chance to speak at the December 6th meeting.
Thank you for that, Chuck. All right. Bye, everybody. Next up, notice of intent, 2973, 29 Leonard Street, Nigel Bentley, raise and rebuild single-family home in Riverfront area. John Judd of Gateway Consultants, Inc., representing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing the Bentleys for this property at 29 Leonard Street. This is a proposed removal and reconstruction of an existing dwelling, partially in the riverfront zone to Lobster Cove. This sort of caught us by surprise because we are toward the outer reaches of the, thank you, Chuck, for putting that up. We're toward the outer reaches of Lobster Cove and about 40 feet above it. So we're at the break in the top of the hill, if you will, where drainage would go toward Leonard Street or toward Lobster Cove. So we're right at the top of the hill. In any event, we are proposing a reduction in the proposed footprint. As shown on the plan, there's a darker line that shows the footprint that was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And as part of this, we are proposing roof drain infiltration and through a rain garden swale that would be on the slope outside of the riparian zone, the 100-foot riparian zone, I should say, and outside the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank. So as a result of this reduced footprint, we would have about 104 square feet less of impervious area within the riparian zone. And we are providing drainage and meeting the 1058-5 requirements to basically improve the riparian zone for this redevelopment project. And I can answer any questions that you might have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open up for public comment first. Anyone in the public who wishes to speak for or against the project at 29 Leonard Street may do so by hitting the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen or hitting *9 on your phone or handheld device.
Currently have 8 attendees and there are no hands up at this time.
Okay, seeing none, hearing none, close the public comment period. Next up would be Commissioner roll call comments.
Member Charpentier,
no comments,
Member Sergeant,
no comment,
Terry,
No comments.
Member Gullis,
No comment.
and Member Jackson.
No, I have no comments either.
That seems pretty straightforward. Okay, well then with that, Chuck, anything to add?
I just was curious on the plan. It looks like the porch is extending beyond the previous footprint. Is that correct? Or
Yes, well, that's an existing porch. That is a covered porch as part of the building. Yeah, they're right in that area. So it does come over about 1.5 feet outside the existing porch. However, the cumulative is a reduction.
okay, I was looking at this hatching as the existing and seeing this entire thing as but
yeah,
you're saying
that porch is a covered porch there, but it is we could show it as hatching.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's just a little strip here that's additional.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. nobody else has any comments, we can close the hearing.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson moves to close the public hearing for NOI 0282973 at 29 Leonard Street.
Carpenter seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Member Sergeant,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Villa,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Commissioner Jackson moves to approve NOI 0282973 at 29 Leonard Street with the aforementioned conditions, which there were none.
Charpentier seconds?
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes?
Sergeant,
Yes.
Member Terry,
Yes.
Member Villa,
Yes.
and Member Jackson.
Yes, yes.
Okay, you're all set, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay. So I have to recuse on this next project, so, and Joe, do you mind taking care of the rest of the meeting? There's most, can you handle the certificates of compliance for him?
It'll be fine, Rob.
All right. See you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is NOI 0282972 at 8 Cove Way, Kevin Borselli for raise and rebuild single-family home in Riverfront area. John Judd, Gateway Consultants, Inc., representing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For Kevin Borselli, my name is John Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants. Kevin is also here tonight if there are any questions for him. Again, this is a similar project. We're in the outer riparian zone, this time to Annisquam River itself. There are a few properties that are actually in between us, this property and the river as shown on the plan. And the proposal is to remove and reconstruct that the existing dwelling on the property. The property does have a new sewage disposal system that you can see is outside. That was put in a couple of years ago, and that is outside the riparian zone. And Kevin would like to complete the improvements with reconstructing the house. As shown on the plan, we do have riparian zone calculations, and we are proposing a net increase of 591 square feet as shown on the plan, but we are as required under 1058, 310 CMR 1058, improving that area in between the riverfront and the proposed degraded area for this redevelopment by 200% of mitigation plantings with native species, and obviously erosion control around all the proposed work. There, as shown, the mitigation notes include the various native plants that Kevin would be putting in there to mitigate that area. And we can answer any questions you might have at this time.
Okay, first I'm going to open this up for public comment. And then we will go through commissioner comments and you can respond to everybody.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to comment on the project at 8 Cove Way?
6 attendees and 1 hand up, Susan and Rick.
Thank you. This is Rick Talkov.
And Susan Davies.
From 10 North Landing Way. We are neighbors and abutters of Kevin and Stephanie Borselli and approve the project.
Yes, we're very enthusiastic about what they're doing.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate you calling in.
No other hands up at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public comment period. We'll move on to commissioner comments.
Member Charpentier,
No comments?
Member Sergeant.
There should be an additional mitigation for an increase in impervious surfaces, and there should be a 2-year monitoring for the mitigation, for the mortality of mitigation plantings. All dewatering must be adequately treated before being discharged. And because this property is served by an on-site wastewater system, the health department must approve the building permit. Thank you.
I'm sorry. You call me? I had a question on the plan. The deck, the kind of curved deck and the deck on the other side, is that part of the existing structure or is that part of the proposed work?
Member Jackson?
Yes, Mr. Judd, as you may be aware, DEP is evolving its definition of mitigation for the various aspects that are impacted by redevelopment, so that in each area that is involved in redevelopment, in their guidelines, you have to mitigate 2 to 1 for each of those. Am I saying that clearly, Chuck?
Yeah, so there's the different subsections, you know, that if it doesn't comply with, it's moving closer to the resource area, it's expanding towards the resource area, and the expansion of that, or that portion of the expansion exceeds 10%. And so, there needs to be mitigation for each of those areas where it doesn't comply. So you can't just have 2 to 1 mitigation for covering all 3 of those. That's my understanding.
Yeah, you don't get double credit for the mitigation. Okay. Chuck, did you have anything else to add before Mr. Judd responds?
No, nothing additional.
Okay. John?
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the town co-ops for speaking in support. Thank you, Rick and Susan. Dave Sargent had the additional mitigation planting as noted by Chuck and Joe. So we can get into that in a second, but I just want to address Peter's question as far as the deck and covered porch. So I can maybe show that. Thank you. So the existing house does have a covered porch and a deck, but the proposal is, you can see it's a bit darker, Peter, and it's not italicized. So the italicized portion is existing where it says covered porch and deck, and then the regular font is the proposed. So we are extending out toward the bottom of the slope. Yeah, thank you, Chuck. So that's where that additional footprint extends and over the existing. So hopefully that answers Peter's question on that. So getting back to the 2 to 1, I do agree with everything that was said by Ann, Joe, and Chuck. We are at the 10%. So I'm not sure if that sort of appeases the. So we have a net increase of 591 square feet within the riparian zone, but you can see that the total riparian zone here is just under 6,000 square feet. If you use that triangular portion of the lot that goes along the property line and the dash line, so we're just under that 10% cutoff. So. But we have no problem mitigating additionally, but that's, I think what you're talking about is anything above 10% needs to be mitigated. So if I'm wrong on that, Chuck, feel free to correct me on that.
Yeah, no, it's not that you can increase coverage by 10%. It's once the coverage existing or proposed exceeds 10% of the riverfront area.
Right.
To mitigate for that. So you don't get to add 10% every time you come in for a project.
Right. So yeah, again, we're below. So the 10% expansion, we have, like I said, just about 6,000 square feet in that triangular area, and then we're doing 591 square feet of increase or modification. So that's why we're doing the 200% of that area, as we always do. I'm not sure if that.
Okay,
clears
and
things.
that 10% is E in that particular section of 5. If you could also look at A, C, and D.
Yeah, so no closer to the river than the existing conditions or 100 feet, whichever is less. That's subsection C. So we're obviously, outside 100 feet. Subsection D, proposed work including expansion of existing structures shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except in accordance with 1058.5 F and G. And that goes into the degraded portion and so forth. But if we go into subsection E, the area of the proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area, provided that the proposed work may alter up to 10% of the degraded area is less than 10% of the riverfront area, except in accordance with 310 CMR 1058.5 F and G. So my interpretation is, you know, as long as we keep it at the 10% of the area on the property or less, which is what we've done, then we're mitigating 200%. But
Chuck, that hasn't been your understanding, am I correct?
You don't get to increase the project by 10. You don't get to increase the area by 10%. You said there's 6,000 square feet of.
Yes, in that triangular portion, where we have 6,000 square feet of riparian zone, and we're doing 591 square feet. So basically,
the existing structure is 1689. So you already exceed 10% of the 6,000. You're close to what, 30, 20, 25% or something? So
yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
10%. Anything additional is also going to exceed 10%. You don't get to add 10%. Because you could come back 10 times and essentially cover the entire area. That's not how it works. It's you're exceeding 10% coverage already. So everything additional, every expansion from now on would need to be mitigated for. Because you already exceed 10% coverage of the riverfront area for that parcel.
So your interpretation is the options that we have is not increase it or mitigate that 200% of what we're the entire project.
For the increase in the coverage, you need to mitigate 2 to 1, but then you also need to mitigate for increasing the expansion towards the riverfront.
Which is, I believe that's, so I guess I'm not clear on that. So we're expanding it 591 and we're mitigating 200%. So I guess I'm not sure.
Right, the 591 is the increase of coverage.
Yes.
Right, so that's the expansion of existing structures.
Correct. So
that's 1058.5D. You're also moving closer to the riverfront, 1058.5C.
But not more than, not within 100 feet. It says 100 feet or within that or less. So we're outside, we're in the outer, obviously.
John, I think if you sat down with Chuck, you could straighten this out. It's a change from the way we've been looking at things. There's no question.
Yeah.
But he has talked with DEP, and DEP is looking at things in a different way now, such that all of these A through whatever F aren't considered one mitigatable area. There's mitigation for each of these. It's a cumulative mitigation.
Yeah, so I think you're still looking at D and E.
Okay, so what would appease, based on this, is not moving it any closer toward the river is the simple solution from what I'm hearing.
Sure, yeah, I mean, if the proposed deck was, not any closer than the existing deck,
yep,
then that would not, then it would still comply with D. So then you're just looking at 2 to 1 for the overall expansion. Yeah.
Okay, so that, I mean, that's the takeaway that I'm hearing is it basically from here on out, the board would like to see it not go any closer toward the riverfront.
That's that's the intention of these, is that, you know, you're limiting the expansion overall within the riverfront area, but you're also limiting the expansion. If you are going to expand, is trying to get you to expand away from the riverfront area. So there's multiple things that it's trying to accomplish, not encroaching further on the riverfront, but also not encroaching size-wise. So if you're doing both of those, you need to mitigate for both of those. You know, if you're only doing one of those, you only have to mitigate for one of those actions.
Okay. Obviously, we're limited on this proposal, the amount of area where we can mitigate. You know, as you can see, we're doing quite a bit.
Sure. You could also expand away from the river.
Yep. Okay. All right. So let me, if I can huddle up with, thank you. I'll huddle up with Kevin. Kevin, do you want to raise your hand? Do you have any questions? Now's the time to do so. Otherwise, we can.
You there, Kevin?
Yeah, no, I think I understand it better now, and because
name, address for the record.
Oh, sorry, Kevin Borselli, 8 Clove Way, applicant and landowner. So if I'm understanding this correctly, I was looking at paragraph 58.5 F, paragraph F, and it, under the terms notwithstanding of the previous criterias, and I thought that's what the performance criteria was we were working within. So but if that's all inclusive in what Mr. Shade's saying, I think there's ways we can certainly mitigate the deck expansion. Obviously, the 100-foot buffer, the 100-foot riverfront buffer it's a sort of at a radius, if you will. If we don't want to go any closer toward that, I'm just referencing, I'm looking at my plan, the 100-foot riparian zone radius. I think we can keep things within the context of that existing deck, and not go any further closer to the river. If that keeps us in the current mitigation planting scenario that we have on the existing plan, because it's getting extensive, and I just want to try to obviously maintain access down toward my lower lot, which leads to my dock, for walking and things like that. So I think this is workable.
Okay, John, after you confer with your clients further and come up with some ideas, I would also appreciate it if you had a conversation with the agent so that you don't have to come back again, so that he can make sure that you're fulfilling
Absolutely.
these
Thank
new
you.
interpretations.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll add those modifications as outlined by Kevin. Send that over to Chuck ASAP for a draft and have a look at that, and just make sure we're on the same page before the next hearing.
Okay, that sounds good. Do you want to continue to December 6th?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Linda?
Yeah, Charpentier moves to continue NOI 0282972 at 8 Cove Way to the commission meeting of December 6th.
Do you have a second?
Lettieri seconds.
Oh, member Charpentier.
Yes?
Sergeant?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you all
Not
very
about
much.
seconding. Okay.
Have a good night.
You too, John. Okay. Next up, we have certificates of compliance. We have 3 of them. They all look good, Chuck?
They did,
Okay.
yes. Visited all 3 of those and did not have any issues.
Okay, Linda, I think you can move all of them at once.
Okay, Charpentier moves to accept the certificates or approve the certificates of compliance at RCOC 0282920 at 763 Western Avenue, 0282794 at 6 Vine Street, and 0282869 at 26 Riggs Point Road.
Do I have a second?
Lettieri seconds.
Roll call, Member Charpentier,
Yes,
Member Sergeant,
Yes,
Member Terry,
Yes.
Member Jackson.
Yes. Okay, any updates on Atlantic Street water line?
Looks like Tyler Palermo is raising his hand. They have not submitted anything new, but they do plan to. And I
Okay.
think
Hey, good evening. Could you guys hear me?
Yes, name and address for the record, sir.
Hey, good evening. My name is Tyler Palermo, project manager at the Procopio Companies at 35 Village Road in Middleton. I'm the development project manager for the project at 187 Atlantic Street, which is where this water line is stemming from or related to. So I'll keep this quick. I know it's been a long night, but last time we met, the commission had requested that Procopio look into what it would take to finalize the repair of the culvert. So we've been busy preparing a scope of work and looking into what we think it would take to get this to the finish line. So we actually have a meeting with Mike Hale at the DPW tomorrow, just to get his input on the restoration work. We want to make sure that, we have the backing of the DPW before we submit any formal proposal to the commission. And once we have that conversation with him, and once we have the proposal, we'd like to submit that to the commission, and we'll discuss it at our next meeting. So I'm just requesting that this matter be continued to the next meeting on December 6th.
Okay, I don't think we'll have any problem with that, commissioners. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
I would have a brief comment. And
Sure.
Well, thank you for, considering this and checking with the DPW. My recollection is with the DPW that the previous NOI also had a stormwater component to it. And I'm wondering if that could also be rolled into it.
Yep, I will take note of that. And I will bring that up as a topic of discussion with my team tomorrow as well, and we can present that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sargent. Is there anyone else who has a question or a comment?
Maybe just clear up some confusion for me, but this water line project didn't include, in the original scope of work, they didn't include any work on this culvert, right?
That's correct. It was, so we had to pass underneath the culvert, and then that's when the incident happens. But yeah, the project was unrelated to the culvert, correct?
What do you mean by pass underneath the culvert?
So when we were installing the water line up Atlantic Street, we had to go underneath the culvert and come back up just to go under it and come up and continue down Atlantic Street towards our project. And that's when the collapse of the culvert happened. But yeah, the original scope of work for the installation of the water line did not include any restoration work to that culvert.
Well, there's no restoration work included because one of the conditions was that that culvert would not be damaged during the work.
Right.
So therefore, there was no need to mitigate for damage that wasn't supposed to happen.
Okay. I appreciate you meeting with the DPW. I think we're looking forward to some positive news at the next meeting.
Thank you guys very
We will
much. I
continue
appreciate it.
this.
Sorry, my camera's not working.
That's okay. We'll continue this on December 6th.
It's a move?
move to adjourn?
No, do we have to move to continue the
I
enforcement?
don't think so.
No.
We don't, no.
An enforcement order, I don't believe we need to set up.
We'll just decide to continue it.
This, have you gotten any guidance from DEP, like written guidance or anything on this riverfront new interpretation?
They've had some trainings and stuff, I believe, and Joe's gone to one. I think Dave's gone to them. I will see what I can find. I've got some of the slides and some stuff like that. I'll pass out to everybody that wants to review it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
And you've also talked with DEP personnel.
Yes, yeah, we've had a couple projects that have been approved by the commission that were then later one still under superseding order because of they didn't feel that some of the mitigation was quite appropriate for what they're proposing. So I'm happy to talk through those with you as well if you're interested. But
yeah,
I'll talk to Alicia too and see if she's going to be doing any more trainings on that coming up.
That would be helpful, because I think all of us are a bit at sea on this.
Yeah, I think it is one of the more confusing
Oh, yeah.
sections.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Lettieri seconds.
Roll call.
Okay.
Member Sharp here.
Yes.
Member Sargent.
Yes.
Member Lettieri.
Yes.
And Member Jackson.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Good night, everyone.
Same to
Enjoy Thanksgiving.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. All right.